And there I was, 15 years old and homeless. Now I know what you're thinking to yourself, like, man, how could you be homeless at 15? Well, it was because of the decisions that I made at that age. Now listen, I wasn't perfect, right? So you can only imagine what decisions I had to make. So one of my habits was I was chasing after women, right? You know, I was a young person. I fell in love, right? And I thought that was part of my journey, right? That was part of my success, but it really wasn't, right? So, you know, being homeless at 15 years old, when I think about it now, it's like, man, why did I even make that decision? Why did I have to put myself through that trial and error? But you know what? It was a learning curve, right? But I remember, as I think back now, I remember that living in my car, 15 years old, with a busted window in a station wagon, right, that my dad had bought me. Now, I know you say, well, wait a minute. Where was your parents? Where was your mom? Where was your dad? Well, my mother wasn't in my life at the time, but my dad did the best that he could. But he always said something, that whenever you decide that you want to be grown, you're going to have to get out and live on your own. And at 15, I thought I was grown, right? Unbeknownst to me, being in that situation, as I think back now, I wouldn't even want anybody to do what I did, right? I wouldn't want my kids to go through what I went through. Why? Because, man, it was hard. It was extremely hard. And I remember saying to myself, you know what? How am I going to survive? And I remember writing bounce checks. Yep, bounce checks. Had a bank account. And I said, you know what? This is how I'm going to get my food. This is how I'm going to put gas in my car. Until one day, I got to a point where it was like, listen, enough is enough. There is no longer, I can do this. And you know what had to happen? I had to have a conversation with God. And I say, God, listen, I need to be able to get out of this situation. What do I do? I remember my dad telling me back at that time, payphones was a big thing. And I remember my dad telling me, always keep $1 on you just in case you got to make that phone call. And luckily enough, I had $1. I was able to break 4 quarters. I got to the payphone. I called my dad. I said, God, please let him answer. Please allow him to accept me back. And sure enough, he picked up the phone and he said, son, come back home. And the last thing I needed God to do was give me the opportunity to write one more last check just to put gas in my car so I can get home. And you know what? I appreciate that time.